Hi there, it's Karen Williams here, the book mentor, and I'm delighted to be with you for a series of 3 Facebook Lives to mark the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. Now, you're probably watching this video because you're thinking about writing a book. Maybe you've already started, perhaps you're a bit stuck, or you're trying to make the decision whether 2020 is the right time for your book. So I'm going to give you some ideas and some hints and tips to get you thinking about it. So it is the 31st of December 2019 today, so end of a year, end of a decade, and a lot of people use this time of year to think about planning. I certainly have. I've done a lot of hibernating over the Christmas period, but I've also started thinking about what I want to achieve in 2020. What do I want to have in my life, both personally and from a business point of view? And how to make things simpler. That's certainly my word of the year. Anyway, I digress. So the purpose of these three Facebook Lives is to take you from that dreaming stage, dreaming about writing a book, to making the decision to write it, to actually starting to get you off the starting blocks with it. Is it the right time for your book? And that's only you know the answer to that, but I'll give you some things to think about today. Now, it probably doesn't surprise you that I have many conversations with prospective clients and clients and people generally who tell me that they've been dreaming about their book for years. Many people have told them to write it, and it can be 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 13 years, even longer. And then something tips them over the edge to actually going from dreaming to actually starting it. And I'll give you a really great example of that later on this afternoon. So how long have you been dreaming about your book? Have you started it? And if you're thinking, okay, so what does dreaming mean? So dreaming to me means that you're thinking about writing a book. Maybe you've got some ideas down on paper. Perhaps you've got a few words written, but you're not necessarily forming a book yet. Maybe you're talking about it to people and you're kind of getting a few ideas out there. You're asking for feedback, you're sharing it with people. But what you're not necessarily doing is, what you don't necessarily have in front of you is a really clear plan to make your book happen. You don't have a really clear structure of what comes first, what comes second, what comes third to actually make your book happen. And you're not quite sure when it's going to happen. And that's what I mean by dreaming. And we often move through stages. Sharon and I came up with a model a couple of years ago, the author's journey model. And we often go through stages like dreaming, talking, and then actually planning and deciding. But too many people get stuck in that dreaming stage. So is it the right time for your book? How long have you been dreaming about doing it? And is 2020 the year of your book? Now, there's nothing wrong with dreaming, don't get me wrong, you can dream and dream and dream, but actually for some people, they dream for so long, they never make things happen. If you think about some of the big things in your life, some of the bucket lists, the kind of things, which were some of the things I was thinking about personally over the Christmas period, actually, if you don't make a plan to make them happen, they might never happen. And life's too short, in my view, for that to take place. So have you done a bit of planning for 2020? In my newsletter yesterday, I wrote about planning, and I have been doing some thinking myself, as I said, over the Christmas period. But the main problem with planning is that we start from now and we look to the future. And you might think, why is that a problem? Because actually, if you start from now and you look to the future with planning, your book may never happen. So for example, you might say, right, it's 2020, it's January the 1st, tomorrow, and you might be thinking, okay, let's get some words down on paper. I'm going to start writing my book. And then, suddenly it's March, suddenly it's April, suddenly it's May, and without a really good, robust plan, it's less likely to happen. Now, I do something differently when I work with clients. So the thing that I do is I work backwards. So whenever I work one-to-one with clients or one of our group programs, we start from the date they want their book published and work backwards. Then it makes it easier to see how it fits into your life. So for example, if you want your book in someone's stocking next year and you want your book maybe printed and published by, say, the 30th of November, there are certain milestones that you need to put in place to make that happen. And if you were to work with me, we'd look at that date and we'd look at when you needed to have your first draft written, your final manuscript, when you needed to approach someone for the foreword, when the editing, the design needs to happen, how much time that you need to allocate per week to do that. And that's one of the things that we would work on to get your book out there. So for me now, a suggestion for you, if you are thinking about planning for 2020 and you're thinking, it is the year of my book, I want to get my book out there by the end of December 2020, start from that. There's a great NLP exercise called Timeline, where basically you physically stand on the floor and you put yourself in that position of 31st December, or whatever date you have in mind. And then you look forward to the present time. And then you work backwards with those milestones. So to get this in place, what needs to happen and when? And I'll be talking about the different milestones and how long each part of the process takes on the Facebook Live on Thursday. So if you're thinking, help, how long does it take to get a book designed? How long does it take to get a book published? I'll go into that in a little bit more detail on Thursday, and also some of the preparation you need to do to make your book as easy as possible for you to write and actually get out there. So I mentioned briefly about tipping points earlier on this Facebook Live, and we often have tipping points that make us take action. Actually, for the last couple of years, I've been planning my 5th book, but it was only earlier this year when I realised that I was looking and dreaming about the wrong book. And when I was actually aligned to the right book I really wanted to write, it made it so much easier for me. And that's why I went away and actually wrote it within about 6 months and published it on audio earlier this year. Another really great example, a lady called Sarah Harvey, who's given me permission to share her story. She's been a Librotas client since December last year. And she, like many people, had been dreaming about writing her book for many years. And suddenly there was a tipping point. She had a big birthday coming up in January this year, and she wanted to get her book out there before she reached the next anniversary, her next birthday. So we started working together. December we met up, we did a day together, we started planning out her book, and we worked backwards from her deadline to make sure that she had her books in reasonable time, that everything that needed to happen, that happened, but we worked backwards rather than forwards to actually achieve it. And I'm delighted to let you know that next Wednesday, the 8th of January, which is her birthday, I am going to be attending and speaking at her book launch in Chichester. So it can happen when you put the right process in place. But to actually achieve it, you need the accountability, you need the structure, you need to kick up the backside every now and then to actually make your book happen. Because otherwise it will just stay a pipe dream and never actually take place. So I like to leave you with a question. How important is your book right now on a scale of 1 to 10? And I know there's a few of you live, so if you want to put it in the comment box or if you're watching the recording, I'd love to know. How serious are you about writing your book in 2020? And why is it important to you? And if you're an 8 out of 10 and we haven't had a conversation, please do book a call with me. I'd love to help you to make it happen. And if you're a 7 or below, is it the right time for you and your book? Because it's not the right time for everybody. But if it's an 8 and above, what do you need to do next to make your book happen? And how can you take that next step on your book writing journey? And how can I help you? So hopefully you've had a thought, had a dream, and now you're looking at actually making that decision to make it happen. And I'll be back on Thursday, same time, same place, to talk about the milestones on your journey and the preparation to make it as easy as possible to write your book. Just one more thing, in January 2020, I am starting the Authority Mentoring Programme, which is a 6-month group mentoring programme to take you from idea to final manuscript. So if you know that you want your book in someone's Christmas stocking by December 2020, you want it to be up on Amazon, available to buy, you might want to achieve the bestseller status. If you want your book out there this year, do come and have a chat with me. I'm looking for 10 people, 6 months to take you from idea to final manuscript. It's a group program, so not only do you access my advice, my expertise, but you also access the strength and the camaraderie and the motivation from the group as well. It's all delivered online. And by July, wouldn't it be great if you had your final manuscript in your hand, ready to be published? Now, are you ready to go from dreaming to deciding? On Thursday, I'll take you from deciding to doing. I'll see you then. Bye for now.